Tom Kuhn, President and CEO of the Edison Electric Institute. Tom, it seems like it was just last month that we saw you at last year's State of the Energy Industry, but we had a busy and I think very productive year. We're looking forward to hearing from you about what has happened, what's transpired over a sometimes chaotic 2021, and what the agenda looks like for your members going forward in 2022. So with that, Tom, I'll turn the virtual floor over to you.
Well, thank you very much. And again, thanks to you and Sheila and the whole USEA team for putting on this great program. But also, thank you very much for all the things that you do around the world with respect to energy projects in concert with the State Department and USEA and the other organizations that you work with. And I just want to say there've been some terrific presentations already about energy and how important it is. And I am very, very excited to be a part of this program to talk about what the electricity industry is doing for a customer-focused vision, and one that is very, very dedicated to bring clean energy future to our country. So basically, I just remember back 60 years ago, as a matter of fact, when President Kennedy talked about at the beginning of his administration about putting a man on the moon. And that seemed at that point in time to be an impossible undertaking, one that people only imagined at that time. But the president mentioned that this was certainly a worthwhile endeavor to advance science, but also that it was going to be something that we were going to definitely be willing to accept, that we were going to be unwilling to postpone, and that we were going to do it, and that we were going to win. So, I mean, that was again, a major undertaking at that point in time, and people didn't think that it could happen. He indicated it was going to happen by 1970, and sure enough, it got done. But that kind of determination and resolve is what we have in the electricity industry. You have a situation where electricity is so vital to everything that we do, and makes it a very, very exciting proposition for the future. But we also, again, have that customer-focused vision and a interest in reducing our carbon emissions in a major way, that we will be part of not the climate problem, but part of the climate solution. And this makes it a very, very exciting place to be. We indeed have done some major accomplishments already. 40% reduction from 2005 levels, as Ashad indicated. We are at the lowest level in 40 years in carbon emissions, and again, 40% of our generation is now coming from carbon-free energy. So it is again, a very, very exciting place to where we are. We are seeing a path to zero carbon energy in the future, and we are on a mission to get there. It is the defining issue of our time. And we, again, are going to be part of the solution, and we think the path forward is not only clear, but the path forward is certainly clean. So essentially, how are we getting to these major carbon reduction emissions? Well, first, renewables are growing tremendously, and we've seen renewable growth in 2021 continue at a major pace, to the extent now that they represent 20% of our generation. And again, a real major advance in that area. Natural gas has been a very, very important part of the equation to help us reduce emissions, not only in the United States and around the world. And we have a natural gas sustainability initiative We partnered with AGA, we partnered with API, and it is resulting in major methane reductions, which is a very, very potent greenhouse gas that definitely needs to be reduced. So gas is going to continue to not only help us reduce emissions, but provide the reliability that we need to complement renewables. Nuclear energy is just such an important part of the equation too, 24/7 carbon-free energy. And we are very excited to see a major resurgence in nuclear energy, as Maria Korsnick indicated. And I think that is absolutely going to be positively essential to move us forward to a zero carbon energy future. So at this last year, there was a major climate summit in Glasgow, Scotland. Leaders from around the world came to it. We had a major delegation there too. And Gina McCarthy, the climate czar for President Biden, the major climate leader in this country, came and complimented our industry for doing so much to reduce carbon emissions and being a leader around the world in this area. And we were very, very proud of that. As was indicated by Ashad earlier, new technologies are going to be incredibly important to help us get to that last 20%. And so we are very strongly supporting these new technologies through our Carbon-Free Technology Initiative. They would be advanced nuclear power, hydrogen, advanced storage, carbon capture and storage, and other technologies as well. And so we are very, very pleased to support them. And we were very, very excited about the major infrastructure bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And I was very pleased at a period of partisan bickering to go to the signing ceremony for that bipartisan infrastructure bill. And it was very interesting. You had business groups like the Chamber and the Business Roundtable and National Association of Manufacturers. You had environmental groups. You had labor unions and a very eclectic group of people. They've been trying to pass major infrastructure legislation for decades. It finally got passed. We were a supporter of it. There are major provisions in the bill that will benefit us to help develop more clean energy, to help develop electric transportation, to move forward on broadband, middle mile broadband, to give us more resilience in the electric system, provisions for cybersecurity and physical security and resilience. So just a major positive piece of legislation. And I think that with respect to the transportation provisions, this is certainly going to be an important part of the equation in order to get to a zero carbon energy future. So we now have 2 million electric vehicles on the road. We expect by the year 2030 that there will be more than 20 million on the road. And I think that the industry, along with the government, is strongly moving forward on electric vehicle charging stations and infrastructure. We've spent $3.4 billion already. Another billion is underway. The infrastructure bill talks about $30 billion and talks about school buses and fleets and a whole host of other things in this area that will move forward and change our transportation system down the road. So I think that, again, that makes the electric sector be part of the solution. And of course, there's other electrification initiatives that will help get us there as well. So there is still major legislation pending that has climate provisions in it. $550 billion in the Build Back Better bill. It was a huge bill that was at one point in time several $1 trillion. And now the Democrats, including the president, as are talking about breaking the bill up. And the good news is that the highest priority everybody is talking about right now are the climate provisions and the tax provisions in that bill. This will really help us to move forward. There are tax provisions with respect to, again, solar and wind. There is a situation where we could use the production tax credit for solar. There is a nuclear production tax credit that will help preserve those existing nuclear plants that are so important to us. Hydrogen storage, transmission, and provisions there that hopefully will help us address the normalization issue there as well. So again, in the EV area, some very, very important charging and EV tax credits as well. So it's a very exciting piece of legislation if it can be broken apart and just strictly address the climate provisions. And so we will be again working with the administration and the Congress to do that and to get it right. There are many other things that we have on our priority list, and one of the top areas is cyber security. And again, I think we are very, very proud of leading the way in this area. We have partnered with the administration on the Electric Sector Coordinating Council, work closely with public power and co-ops in that effort. And I think that when the administration came in and wanted to focus on operational technologies, we worked on the 100-day sprint with them, and that is proving to be very, very beneficial as well. Mutual assistance, we're continually working on improving our response to storms and our recovery, because electricity is so important to the economy. And wildfires are the biggest new problem caused by climate change. We have the CEO task force, again, working with federal agencies like agriculture, transportation, and the Department of Energy to bring new technologies to the equation, again, to make the utility industry be firefighters rather than fire hazards. This is all, again, I think very exciting. So as a major infrastructure industry, we spend more than $100 billion on the grid. Clean energy technologies, transmission, hardening the grid, resilience, et cetera. And we will continue to do that as the grid is called upon more and more to sustain the electricity that's needed for the economy. And obviously, there are a lot of other initiatives that we have in the customer area and the workforce area, international supply chains. We are an international organization. I'm very proud of our international members are partnering with us on all these areas. And finally, the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion is a very, very high priority for our industry. We want to reflect the communities and the customers that we serve. DEI programs are happening throughout our industry and those communities, and making a major, major difference to our country. Very, very exciting time to be associated with this industry, and the efforts that I talked about are helping to shape our vision and our commitment to delivering a reliable, affordable, sustainable, and increasingly clean electricity to our customers and our community. So it's a great time, and in the words of President Kennedy, we will continue to take on this challenge, and we intend to win. Thank you very much.
Tom, thank you for that wonderful overview of the accomplishments that your members achieved last year, and what we have in a positive way to look forward to. It's in these times that are somewhat chaotic and dynamic, it's great to have your leadership atop an important association such as the Edison Electric Institute. For our viewers overseas, this is the Association of our Investor-Owned Utilities. Tom, I thank you for that, and I thank you for all the support you give to USEA as a member of our board of directors. I was wondering if you might have time for a couple of questions.
I'd be very pleased to take some questions, Will.
Thanks, Tom. I recently, Arshad mentioned the importance of transportation in reducing our emissions. You talked about it briefly in your talk here. And I noticed that last year you made a major announcement about the National Electricity Highway Coalition, and I wanted to congratulate you on that. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, and how did it come about in this time when there is this sclerotic inability to make major initiatives? How were you able to make this happen?
Well, Will, I think that again, the industry has such a important determination and resolve in moving this forward. We had many efforts going on across the country in states like California and New York and New England. In the Midwest, there were a couple of different coalitions that were helping in the states there. And we really just decided to bring them all together. And to get the whole industry behind it. And leaders of those different organizations all agree that that would be helpful. So we have essentially an effort going now in all 50 states with our companies very much involved with partners like Tennessee Valley Authority, co-ops, et cetera, and again, the federal government, which is very committed. We see a wonderful partnership going on between Jennifer Granholm, Secretary of Energy, and Secretary Buttigieg from Transportation Department right now, talking about how they're going to work together to move that EV charging infrastructure forward in a major way over the next few years. And this is, I think, going to make the EV area, not only with respect to private vehicles, but with respect to fleets and school buses, et cetera, and many, many other areas really blossom in the future. So we are excited about it. We think that it will be a major evolution for our society. We think a lot more technology is going to go into it, like autonomous vehicles, et cetera, that will help us and improve our society in the future.
It's great. It seems like it's a real win for the country, and to bring a coalition like that together is just it's encouraging. Another question: we saw in 2021 a series of extreme weather events, and the grid was affected, but it was put back together rather quickly, thanks to EEI's leadership and its mutual assistance program. It's an area I think that the public doesn't really know much about and doesn't understand, but it's vital to the way in which this country sustains its infrastructure. We've actually introduced concepts of it in our international development practice and have found there's a growing interest overseas. I was wondering if you might talk a little bit about that and how it works and what it did this year to keep the grid up and running and get it back up after these series of unfortunate events.
Well, Will, thank you for asking that question. And I am very proud of it. I think it's the heart of our industry. You say most people really don't understand it. Where people do see it is where they're kind of evacuating areas and they leave a state, like if major hurricanes are coming into Florida, and they see caravans of bucket trucks and crews going the other direction, where we've brought 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people and to help restore energy. And that happens through this marvelous partnership that we have in our industry, public power and co-ops, and the federal government as well. Where we plan, we see a hurricane coming, or a derecho, or tornadoes, or even wildfires, and we start to plan it and to work on it and bring people together again before the devastation even hits. And again, these people work 24/7 to restore power lines and in tough conditions, and it is just a very, very inspirational thing to see. Again, we are so proud of it. We again applied over the last few years to wildfires too, and it includes technology. It includes things like drones and sensors and detection equipment and things that'll give you information ahead of time, and that information sharing, that partnerships with the federal and state governments and the national labs are helping to bring a lot of technologies to that equation too. So again, it's good. I think partnerships give you incredibly wonderful opportunities to do things better, as you well know, because USEA takes advantage of that worldwide.
We do, and we do that with EEI's support in a major way. You know, in examining the mutual assistance program, you know, and trying to apply it overseas, it's an amazing logistical effort. I mean, you're talking about, you know, bringing hundreds or thousands of linemen and engineers from one part of the country to another. It's not just that they have to put the wires back up and rebuild the poles and everything, but there's a logistical component to it of housing and sanitation and meals and providing all of that support that goes into this. It's an amazing arrangement that's all sort of taken care of in advance and underwritten by this mutual assistance program that you all run at Edison Electric Institute. It's wonderful. One more question, if I could. It's sort of an open-ended. What do you see as this decade's biggest challenge to your membership?
Well, I still think, Will, that the biggest challenge for all of us is the climate challenge. You've talked about how much severe weather that this is bringing to us, and fires, and the damage, the amount of money that's caused by these events is astronomical, and is a year after year that seems to be a new historic situation. And I think that it is not only with respect to the devastation that on territory and people's lives, but the disruption to the economy raises huge costs, and so we really have to take on the climate issue in a major way to make sure that we do continue the large reductions in carbon emissions in the future and provide a clean energy future for our customers and our country and indeed the planet. So that'll be our number one priority for sure.
Well said, Tom. We really appreciate you taking the time, giving us such a succinct but, you know, dense presentation and discussion of where the industry's at. And I look forward to you joining us again next year to hear about the progress you've made.
Thank you very much, Will. Appreciate it. Look forward to hearing the rest of your program. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.